Let's see if it's working. All right. Hi everyone. We're here. Oh, actually, I gotta change this name. Well, I'm just gonna make my name go away. Okay. So, I'm Victor Malcher. Um, you know me from the community. This is Hugo Vaz.
Hey guys, how are you doing?
He's the. I think you better like present yourself. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, my name is Hugo Vaz. I'm one of the artists from Galaxy of Pen and Paper. Actually, I'm in Behold Studio since the beginning, I think. I worked on the Knights of Pen and Paper, Chroma Squad, and now I'm here to show you a little more depth about the story of about Galaxy of Pen and Paper, talking about how it was created, which references we use it to put in the game. So we hope you enjoy the stream today.
Yeah, the idea here is since we are releasing the plus one update this week, and talking about that, just big thank you for all the help that we had from the community, like all the testing, all the loving, all the care you gave us. That was great. And we're releasing the expansion, the extra content free update, and we want to not just get this opportunity to talk about the game itself and like all its history until now. Because looking at the game now, it's kind of hard to see all the trouble that we went
Yes,
while developing it.
It
So
was like 4 years, 3 years of development.
yeah.
Something from the very start, and yeah, that's a lot of story in it.
Definitely.
A lot of time.
So yeah, well, welcome. Feel free to talk to us in the chats, both on Twitch or YouTube. Feel free to use whichever you want. You can ask us questions. Ask him direct questions about specific things about art, or maybe about Behold at the time, stuff like that, and we'll try to answer all of that until the end of the stream. Okay, so the start. How was the like the idea of creating a sequence to Knights of Pen and Paper? How was that?
Yes, well, Knights of Pen and Paper, as you may imagine, it's a very special game for us. Basically, it is a game that built our company as it is today, um, build our community for to be able to deliver Chroma Squad, for example. And at the time we finished or was finishing Chroma Squad, we really want to get back to this old franchise, and we received some um, propositions from Paradox. Actually, Knights of Pen and Paper was a brand made by us, but we sold to Paradox at the start of 2013 for the release on Steam. So after that,
That was after the release for iOS
yes,
and Android, right?
yes, the game was
Yep.
the Knights of Pen and Paper was released on cell phones, and we got in a deal with Paradox to release for Steam, and we also sold the IP to them. So as the time passed, as we were occupied making Chroma Squad, they continued the franchise making Knights of Pen and Paper 2, and as we are finishing Chroma Squad, we wanted to get back to this old franchise and creating a similar game with whole different point of view. For example, Galaxy of Pen and Paper with its sci-fi setting was perfect for us, and we really put the team to work in it.
And why the sci-fi setting? Why was it exactly like?
Well,
Why not keep it on the medieval or something?
Well, basically to make it different, make it a whole new game, not being used to the old stuff or just the same the same jokes. You understand?
Yeah, okay.
Because there is this whole universe, this whole other stuff we couldn't All the jokes we couldn't make on the first one, we we managed to put on Galaxy of Pen and Paper.
Oh, I see.
So it's a lot of time traveling, sci-fi tropes, and this was the perfect opportunity to deliver to the players. So this was like um, 2014 to 15, and we were at the time occupied making a Chroma Squad, and we hired some people to start making the prototype for Galaxy of Pen and Paper.
Oh, so it was at the same time, like you were
Yes,
finishing.
yes.
Okay.
So it was the time of adaptation and prototyping some ideas. A lot of stuff was thrown away, but we learned a lot making the game. And at the time we were with Paradox, and basically the project was being made with them, with how do I say? Basically, we were having meetings every week at the time. So the game evolved a lot at the time.
Okay, so okay, you had like that part of the team working on the prototype, and what was it prototyping exactly? Like, was it the new combat system? Was it the world building and all the planets and all the stuff? Because those are some of the major changes between Knights and Galaxy, right?
Perfect.
So that was the thing that we were testing. You weren't sure
Yes.
about.
Yes, exactly. We know at the time that the game was supposed to give a better combat system, and we tried to make tests with horizontal screen and tests with turn-based combat. And at the time, we focused on the vertical slice. For you guys who doesn't know the term, it's basically you create the game a very thin slice of the game, but with final quality. So it's basically choosing the right features and making it to test an idea or test a feature or test test how your game works, basically, without having to concern about other stuff. Basically, choosing a very thin spectrum of the game and focusing on that. And that was the time. At the time, we focused on the story, some design choices and player choices, master choices that could give the player the ability to choose between different settings and customize the story by itself and the combat itself. So at the time, it already has this system of rows, the front row and the back row, and some kills also.
One thing that I just came to my mind, and I think I never asked it, but it kind of makes sense to ask. Have you ever prototyped Knights or Galaxy on paper, like on actual paper? Have you ever tried that?
Nights, yes. Nights of pen and
Nights,
paper,
was
yes.
it? Yeah.
We
'Cause
prototyped on paper.
it totally makes sense, you know.
Totally.
It just fits.
Yes.
But cool, yeah.
Yeah, for Galaxy Pen and Paper, I guess the main the game was already proven by itself. Okay, it was like not much to explore or like some things we knew it was right to make, so we just go straight
Oh, I see.
to those things. Yeah.
And it makes sense. You had more of a matured vision of the product,
Of course,
right? It was
yes.
not something that was completely new. It was just changes on
Yes.
something that you knew
But also
worked already.
but also we didn't accept those things that that were proven and just putting in the new game. We actually reinterpret and try to fit on this new setting. So a really new game. It's inspired by the first one, but it has a lot of identity by itself.
Okay, so and once you finished with Chrome Squad, you know you've released it and all that stuff. How was it the transition between the two projects? Like,
Okay.
did the team like that was working on the prototypes kept on working there? Or how was that fusion on both sides of the team?
At the time, at the beginning, there were 5 people working on it, making art, code, and game design. So at as we were finishing our jobs on Chroma Squad, for example, I was one of the last ones to go to the Galaxy Pen and Paper team. But as the team was getting finished with Chrome Squad, they were migrating to the Galaxy Pen and Paper, and joining the art team and joining the programmer team. So was of course those new people. Every time a new person was entering the project, meetings and the previous versions were used to make this person go with the flow of the rest.
I see.
Yes.
And is it hard? Like, how many people were there at the time? Like, in each project?
Um, it was a transition. So from 5 people to 10 or 15 people.
Is it tough to like set them all on the same page, especially
Oh, yeah, at once,
changing from
yes.
one?
At once, a lot of people asking a lot of questions, yes. But as the transition was more slow, like
Yeah, I see.
one person at a time, and so the teams were was very easy to explain those things to the new person, and the big meetings, for example, for the story, were able to put everyone on the same page.
Okay, and Galaxy Story, like now that you mention it, it was mostly written by only one person. How was that?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
like it was H, right?
yes. It's Thiago Reis.
Thiago H, yeah.
Yes.
And he was in the project right from the start. Like
Yes. He was responsible for having the meetings with Paradox at the time. Responsible for the main setting, the main storyline, but also responsible for creating the dialogues and creating the flavor texts from the items and this kind of stuff.
it like was the project like totally history oriented, or was it like it had an equilibrium of gameplay and history and which part of the project guided the rest of it?
Okay. So we understand that narrative and game design are very close to each other, because, for example, the story may ask for some specific interaction, but for the game design, it's not the right moment to have that kind of interaction. For example, if you have a whole different system, space combat outside of the easy flow of the player. So it might get a little confused to it, because may seem a lot to absorb at once. So of course those things need to walk side by side, but I think the narrative oriented more the game design.
Cool.
But the game design is very dynamic, because we put a lot of these choices in the hands of the player. For example, the choosing the skills or choosing the paths it will make. But the flow itself, it's very the two need to work together. For example, to not make the player feel overwhelmed by choices or make it lost. So these things is where the narrative can help the game design.
See, and how was the art in all of this? Like, when did you like? How was that transition between the medieval and sci-fi? How was it coming from Chroma Squad and bringing this whole new vision to the direction of art? And especially thinking about Okay, okay. Maybe you should start on that because it's a lot of questions.
Okay. Well, the art, I think the guys were very anxious to start working on it because there were so many jokes and so many references we could use to put in the game, or creating these new enemies, this whole new universe of stories and opportunities to the player. We were used to make Knights of Pen and Paper is very um, uses a lot of common tropes, common space for the medieval stories. Like you have the dungeon, you have the desert, you have the volcano, you have so those enemies that were known by a lot of people that already play RPG, medieval RPG, and the sci-fi RPG is not so known for most players, but for some reason we decided to have more those references. We went for those references. We saw a lot of movies like Alien, not so much obvious references like Doctor Who and Mass Effect or Fallout. Some other references that they were not like just space opera things or common things that you may think of. For example, Star Wars and Star Trek at the beginning were very very common in our story. But we try at the maximum to move away from those and put a lot more spice on that mix.
No, that's cool. It's funny because yeah, you normally expect some things, right? You expect
Yes.
the Star Wars references and stuff like that. But I'm honestly quite surprised with the Fallout and all this stuff.
Yes.
But I think if you look closely, you kind of see all that post-apocalyptic
Yes,
apocalyptic
totally.
and stuff and all this stuff.
Totally.
That's cool.
So there is like cyberpunk references, like Blade Runner or Terminator, alien references from horror, sci-fi horror also. You have also comic, uh, comedic sci-fi, for example, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Um, what else? Other, for example, some sci-fi movies like Contact from Third Degree, and well, I could spend all day
Talking
talking
about
about the
it.
references. Yeah, by myself, I was responsible for some of them. I created the scenarios, some of the enemies also, the players. I really love the skill icons that I could make, and a lot of them has specific jokes or funny things that sometimes I feel embarrassed, but at the general I feel very proud of having the freedom to put them in the game.
And there were like what 3, 4 artists
Yes,
in Galaxy. Um,
3, 4 with if you consider the technical artists.
Technical artists.
Yeah, actually, he made art stuff, the 3D basically. Most of the stuff was made by him, so left 4 artists.
And each and every one of you had like that freedom to choose where to get the references,
Totally.
which one was in the game. Because,
Totally.
for example, on nights, I feel like there are some references there that maybe part of the team don't know. It's just one thing that
Yes.
the artist had in mind,
Yes.
and it put there. I feel like it's the same in Galaxy, right?
Yes, yes, because I think if you get one person to filter those references, and if it's not, if it's just by the one person point of view, it will make basically we might be losing or losing a lot of new content that person doesn't know. So if everyone can identify these opportunities and put a little thing about what things he likes or what things he thinks it's funny. So the game gets the development team gets a lot more, how do you say that? The feeling of
Yeah,
ownership, yeah.
Yeah, right.
It has this feeling of everyone has a part to contribute to the game.
And I think there's something like magical in when every artist is like putting their heart in every piece they're creating. That when players play it, even though all the players are different, each and every one will find something specifically like it was created for them. You know,
Yes.
like when you see a player finding something that nobody else have or few of the people that played have. It's probably something that one person wouldn't be able to create all of them. You know, to
Yes.
filter it and send their that specific message to each one of them. So I
Yes.
think that plural, you know, that creation, collective creation in the references and the jokes,
Yeah, totally.
it helps a lot of that.
For example, I haven't played Mass Effect yet. I started a couple of times, but I never finished. But our writer, he actually Mass Effect is one of his most loved franchises. So um, he really used this knowledge and love about the the game and putting on references in the game and stuff like that. So people that like this kind of thing and like to identify those little things inside of the story or the art, I am sure that those people will get that moment.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and this is
Makes sense.
important because it creates a very personal experience because we are making a thing about a thing you already know.
Yeah, it is something new and familiar at the same time,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah, totally. Uh, okay, so yeah, you started the project, you had the team, everyone got up to that moment and understood what the project was. And how was the start of it? Like, did the project change too much? Like, how was the scope at the start of the game, and how did it
Okay.
change during the project?
Well, the phase we were with Paradox, the game was. I'll be honest. The game was intended to be much bigger. I think even much more. We could really deliver, I guess, for the time we had, because as you see, you have for example, you have the space level, and you have the planet level. It was supposed to have like the underground level in every planet.
Wow.
So it will at the time the game was supposed to have a lot of more content and places to visit. So, and for example, a crafting system. We also had uh, the enemies. You could personalize your game in a lot of different ways at the time, but it was at the time it was only ideas because actually the scope of the project was a lot bigger that we could deliver. But as we parted our ways with Paradox, we stopped working with them. Um, we decided to cut a lot of stuff. For example, we cut a chapter of the story, and those features I told, the crafting system and the dungeon system, the underground, right? For us was like a relief not having to work in those features because we felt those features will not make the game better. It would only make the game more longer and more like luck based, or it will just give more trouble to the player. So we decided to cut this stuff. For example, we were supposed to have like microtransactions at the time because, well, Paradox is a company and they have this politics to with their games, especially mobile ones, and at
It's kind of the mobile standard now, right?
yes,
To use
yes,
microtransactions. Yeah.
and we had this decision to throw this off and make the game we want to play.
That's good, right? Yeah.
Yes.
It,
Basically, it is the main foundation of our company is to also make the players we really want to get to play, but the games we really want to make because everything we make is made with love.
yeah, it makes sense.
Yes.
And like apart from the scope cutting and all that stuff, like the vision of the game, did you hit a point in which like any kind of mechanic or feature of the game like just wasn't the way you wanted, and you had to like throw that away or creating a new, or you know if you finish something, because for example Guy, I think it was talking about last time we talked here, um, about a feature in Knights, if I'm not mistaken, that they just it was basically made and they were like, oh no, that's not good, let's throw that away. Did it have something here in Galaxy that worked like that?
Well, I think there were some overhauls, like the space combat system was very different. You didn't have that skills at the time. We decided to put it to make it better, to make it more decision based.
How was it?
So
It was
it was like only luck,
only
yeah,
luck. Okay.
and a couple of options, but it was not what we really wanted. Also, I guess let me see. Well, the most things we really want to change, we throw them away. That was the main change we made with the
Okay,
game.
that makes sense. The best way to change it, right? Just
Yes,
throw them away. You don't have to do with it.
but we are very happy with the size of the game. Personally, I think it could be a little smaller, but
Yeah, it's already
okay.
huge, right?
Yeah, it's a huge game for you to who likes to play a game with a lot of story, a lot of setting and those plots and how do you say that turning points
Yeah, plot
and plot
twists. Yeah.
twists. So it's a very cool game, and but yeah, we were very happy with the size and everything we could deliver to the players.
Yeah, and it's actually quite full of content, right? Especially now that we have the
Yes.
expansion. I was taking a look at my Steam right now, like before the stream, and I was with 60 hours of play on Galaxy of Pen and Paper. That's absurd, you know. It's
Yes.
just it's way too much. And I mean, you know, it was all fun. You have very varied content, but thinking about indie games, and especially a game made by a team of 10 to 15
Uh-huh.
people, that's just a lot. I
Yeah,
can only
it's a
imagine
lot.
like you've made something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for now on, I expect to work on smaller games.
We all hope so. Uh, anyway, it's funny to have the idea of uh, publishing something that most people won't even get close to playing at all. Did you have that feeling with the other games, or was it something special for Gov? Like, this is way too much content. That's
Well,
way
there's
too
some
big.
point where, of course, you have to keep showing the player new stuff, and we we quite managed to do that because there's always some new boss or plot twist or things going on in the galaxy that might get his attention. But also we are always fighting with the time he has, with the love he can have for the game. So we totally understand some people don't have the time to finish it, but I guarantee that every time if you play it, and every step you go, with the story, it's a time well spent.
Yeah.
Basically, it's we think every moment is crafted by hand.
And made with love, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Uh, well, cool. And now about the talking, getting back to the art stuff. Um, how is that change for like the insertion of 3D elements inside of a 2D game? Like, how was that process? Was that an idea from the beginning, or it
Well,
was something that was born in the game?
yes. Basically, it is. I think this game shows how the company has evolved. Um, in Chroma Squad is a full pixel art game. I think it's also showed how we evolved in the pixel art style.
Mm-hmm.
But in Galaxy of Pen and Paper, we try to work with something new. And as part, a lot of people of the team had the experience to work with 3D. We think that was the perfect opportunity to test some stuff, and especially because we tried to make the game as in the 90s, in the end of the 90s. So that was the time you had like PlayStation and
All that,
Nintendo
yeah.
X64 and
Low
those
poly in
this
3D, right?
this low
Yeah.
poly 3D that were common at the time,
Oh, it makes
and
sense.
we try to give this feeling of playing a not so old game. So has this new stuff,
Oh, that's cool.
and to also to make it fresh for the eyes.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yes.
Actually, yeah. And the idea of like the concept of having different planets with different biomes and different color palettes. Was it like was it too much work for you, like to think of that? Because I remember that Nights has some variation on background, but it's like nothing compared to Galaxy, right? Like
Yes,
the
yes.
variation here is uh, hugely. It's just way bigger than on Nights.
Yes. Well, as every planet has these nodes that you can travel, in every node you actually need some kind of variation for not having that same feeling that you already seen this landscape. So for every planet that has a space, uh, this planetary travel, there are like three variations.
Mm.
So they 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 are shuffled and to be shown to the player. And also, yeah, it's a lot of planets. It's a lot of stuff. Basically, it's a biome for each class that you unlock. But also, it's a game about the galaxy. It's a game about having new discoveries and exploring new planets. And it's basically it was needed to
Yeah,
have all those planets.
it's way more exploration based, right?
Yes.
It's not only a thing about developing characters
Yes.
compared to Knights of Pen and Paper, for example. There, the focus is more on the story and the characters developing through the story, right?
Yes.
Here you have content to be created by the players, right? You can create missions on different planets and choose where you go. You have collections of minerals and stuff like that. So I think it makes sense to have that variation to inspire the
Yes.
biomes, right?
Yes.
The exploration itself. And now one thing um, regarding the not specifically the art, but the game in general, and now bringing the talk specifically about the expansion. Uh, how is the creation process of the plus one edition, like specifically what did you want to bring with the this expansion? how did you choose what was important for the game, what the game needed at the moment?
Well, basically we really want to give those classes that we put in the game was they were projected since from the beginning. They were like in our pockets, like being studied and crafted, and basically they changed the game in a way that for the advanced players that you can have a lot of new experience, like creating combos and basically using the system better. So these classes are are perfect for that, and also the story. It's an expansion for closing the gaps that were left with the previous story. So it's basically it's like a period. It's like, oh, this game it's is this that we want to make.
And what is like your like favorite class from the game or from the expansion? Like what is the one that
Let me
like
see.
expresses you better?
I really like the heavy class
I have a class.
because it's like it's very inspired by the machine from Alien, that Hazel skeleton that Replay uses, and it's basically a how do you say tractor? It's a
Yeah, it's a tractor. It's
tractor. And well, yeah, and it's a tank. I usually play as a tank in most games, most RPG games. Yeah, I think that's
Was you that created
the
the class?
classes.
Yeah.
Yes, the vision of the classes.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah. Oh, yeah, makes sense
I
that
really like that one.
you express it that way. Yeah, I love the plus one content is was the one that I basically interacted more. I guess I've played a bunch of times of the like with the regular content, but I specifically love the sniper class. I don't know, it just hits the right spots from the glass cannon DPS that I usually
Oh yeah,
play.
yes.
It's just so damn good with that.
Yes.
But well, and now that we've kind of finished the job with the Galaxy. It's that is an update that we wanted to release a long time ago. Uh, what do you think is the next step for? I know it's hard to say, but for the pen and paper, I don't know, franchise. What
Everyone asks that.
yeah, yeah, I'm asking this for the community because I know they'll be huge.
Yes.
Like we've talked a bunch about this, but I think it's interesting. Like how each and everyone thinks, like I don't know, dreams about the future of the
Yes,
franchise.
yes. Well, everyone, of course, really loves the franchise, and we have a lot of story, a lot of ideas on the hold for new kinds of RPG, new kinds of themes also. Like I'll give you example, vampires, I don't know, or maybe horror, some Lovecraftian stuff, or that's all of them are ideas that are in the air. We may think of doing it sometime, but now we are committed to another projects and stuff that might develop our sense of our abilities, other abilities like a 3D or making multiplayer games. So if you have a good imagination, expect something nice, mixing of all those elements. A little more of meta RPG game with, I don't know, maybe 3D or um, multiplayer. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's the time. Let's make use of the time.
Yeah, that's great. I'm only certain that anything that comes, like in the future, being that I don't know, yeah, Knights of Pen and Paper, of the pen and paper franchise or not, uh, we're gonna put our authentic spirit in it.
Yes,
So
yes.
I think it's gonna be made by with love,
Yes.
nonetheless.
Well,
And
the information I can give you is that we are flirting with some Chroma Squad things. We didn't have the opportunity at the time, but now we having some kind of leaning towards the same kind of game. So if you enjoy Chroma Squad, feel free to follow our channels and get ready for some new new posts and news.
oh my god, okay. And it's important to remember that, like, if we are only starting to play with that idea, it's like the perfect moment for you to share ideas with us. Like, if you like missed something in those past game of ours, or if you feel like we should work on any kind of idea, you could tell us at our Discord server. The link is down below on YouTube, and Twitch doesn't have the link, but you can find it on YouTube. And it's basically discord.gg slash Behold Studios. So you can meet us there and talk with us about your ideas and share things, and just try your guesses. I think. And the last question I think is, how was the Galaxy Pen and Paper experience, and all the things that the team learned with the game? How is that converting to the our new project, Outer Space? Like, what part of Outer Space do you think was inspired by Galaxy somehow?
I think Galaxy teaches a lot about uh, project management and dividing tasks and optimizing stuff. Also, also a lot of owning a style, owning a project, and making things the most objective. Like we struggle a lot with some project decisions and these things with Paradox that got in the middle was made us rethink a lot about the game and think about the time we lost making it. So I think it's the biggest lesson we learned was about time management, team management, and how to make things in the most objective way. About gameplay, it's hard to say because it's a very different game. It's a multiplayer game, and but of course,
It was a hell of a change, right?
yes, yes. But as an artist, what I can say is that the charisma of the characters, the jokes and the light humor, is still there, and I hope you also like it.
Well, I think that's it. We've played a lot. The Plus One content is now released already. It's on Steam, mobile, and it's possibly on GOG and
Yes,
Humble
yes.
as well. So yeah, if you've played the game, feel free to try it out. It's actually completely free, so you have no reason to not try it out, unless you don't want it. But it was made with great passion, and it was made basically for you people that love the game so far. So if you liked it, I think you're ready to try it. And it's just awesome to always learn all that process of making a game. If you want to know anything about how is the development of a game, of a certain game, how are we developing Outer Space right now, and what are our plans for the future, for future projects and stuff like that. Just get in touch with us on Discord. We have social media as well, like Facebook, Twitter. Uh, but Discord is like the main way to get in touch with us. Is the faster way to get answers and to talk to us directly. It's more of an informal way, so it's better. And well, thank you all for watching. For just being there here all the time. And I hope to see you next time. And thanks Hugo for being here. We'll be here next week with some other different topic. Possibly me